Welcome to the deep dive. So you know that feeling, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's 3 in the morning, the house is totally silent, and instead of sleeping, your brain decides it's time for a film festival.
A festival of all your greatest anxieties.
Exactly. It's replaying that one slightly embarrassing thing you said back in 2011, or it's showing you a trailer for every single disaster that could possibly happen tomorrow.
And you just lie there begging your own mind to stop, but it won't. I think the core conflict we have to get our heads around is this. Your brain isn't actually designed for your happiness.
That's a big statement.
It is, but it's designed for survival. And to that, ancient primitive hardware, peace of mind looks an awful lot like complacency.
Like you're letting your guard down right before the tiger shows up?
Precisely.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack the science, the neurology, and some really surprising stories behind why your brain seems almost addicted to overthinking. And more importantly, figure out how to negotiate with it.
And it all starts with what we could call the evolutionary trap.
Okay.
We have to go way back. 200,000 years ago, the neural hardware we're all running right now, it was finalized then.
In a world that was very different.
Completely different. And that hardware developed what scientists call the smoke detector principle.
I love this analogy. It immediately reframes what anxiety actually is. It's about which mistake is worse.
A false positive or a false negative. So picture it. You're on the savannah, you hear a rustle in the grass.
Okay, scenario A, the overthinker. Their brain immediately screams, "Tiger!"
Run! Hide! Do something!
So they bolt. And, maybe it was just the wind. That's a false positive. They wasted a little energy. They feel foolish. But the key is they survive.
Now, scenario B, the underthinker, the chill ancestor.
Right. They hear the rustle and think, it's probably nothing, just the wind.
And they stay put, but this time, it is a tiger. That's the false negative.
And they become lunch.
They become lunch. And their very relaxed genes are removed from the pool.
So the implication for you, listening right now, is actually kind of unsettling. Yeah.
The humans who were genuinely optimistic about rustling grass, well, they didn't make it. You are the direct descendant of the most neurotic, paranoid, and anxious people who ever lived.
Because they were the ones who survived. That anxiety, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's hard-coded into us because the cost of worrying too much was always lower than the cost of worrying too little.
Which makes total sense. It's literally safer to be paranoid.
Yeah.
But now we live in a world mostly without tigers in the grass, yet that feeling is still there.
Yeah.
So what's the specific hardware that's running this loop now?
That brings us to something called the default mode network, the DMN.
Okay.
Neuroscientists found this is the part of your brain that it lights up like a Christmas tree when you're not focused on a specific external task.
So the moment I stop, say, doing a math problem or really focusing on driving,
the DMN snaps online. It's not passive. It's immediately looking for a job to do.
And its job is?
Mental time travel. That's its primary function. It does two things constantly. First, it reviews the past. We call that rumination. Learning lessons, replaying conversations.
Trying to extract data. And second, it simulates the future. We call that worry. It's trying to anticipate every possible threat before it happens.
And because it's so active, it feels like we're doing productive work.
It feels exactly like productive work. That's the trap. When your DMN is spinning, your brain registers effort, and it thinks, oh, we're solving a problem here, keep going, even if it's just going in circles.
It confuses activity with achievement, which brings us to this really cruel irony about control.
Yes, the white bear effect.
The idea that trying to stop overthinking is the one thing that guarantees it will continue.
The whole idea actually comes from the writer Fyodor Dostoevsky. He had this thought experiment. Try not to think of a polar bear.
And you'll see the thing everywhere.
He said, the cursed thing will come to mind every minute.
Which is a brilliant observation, but did science actually prove that out?
They did. Famously, in 1987, a researcher named Daniel Wagner set up an experiment. He told a group of people, think about anything you want, but whatever you do, do not think of a white bear.
If they did,
they had to ring a bell.
I'm guessing there was a lot of bell ringing?
Almost constant. On average, the thought popped up about once a minute. But here's where it got really interesting. The second phase.
Okay.
He then told that same group, all right, now you can think about the white bear. And what happened?
They thought about it more.
Much more.
Yeah.
Way more than a control group who was just told to think about the bear from the very beginning. The initial suppression made it rebound with a vengeance.
So telling your brain, don't worry about that presentation tomorrow, is the best way to make sure it worries all night.
Exactly. It's called ironic process theory.
Mm.
When you try to suppress a thought, your brain splits into two parts. You have the operator, which is trying to do the work.
Thinking about something else? Anything else?
And then you have the monitor. The monitor's only job is to scan your mind for the forbidden thing. Is the bear here yet? How about now?
And because the monitor is always checking for the thought, it keeps the thought active and ready.
It keeps it right at the front of your mind. So the resistance, the effort to push it away, becomes the fuel that feeds the fire.
That is the ultimate cognitive trap. But okay, let's pivot for a second, because sometimes that overthinking, that paranoia, it's not a trap. It's a superpower.
When it's channeled correctly, yes.
Yeah.
It becomes productive paranoia.
And there's no better example of this than what we're calling the Apollo 13 effect.
The 1970 mission. It's the perfect story. You have 3 astronauts. They are stranded 200,000 miles from Earth.
An oxygen tank has exploded. They are freezing. It's the ultimate disaster scenario.
But the team at Mission Control in Houston, they didn't just spiral into we're all going to die mode. They immediately channeled all that hypervigilance into solving a very specific problem.
An engineering puzzle.
A very specific one. The CO2 levels in their little lifeboat were rising to deadly levels. They had square CO2 scrubbers. But the sockets to plug them into were round. A literal square peg in a round hole problem.
And they could only use what was already on board the spacecraft.
Which was basically, plastic bags, cardboard, hoses, socks.
And duct tape. Famously, duct tape.
So the engineers on the ground engaged in this aggressive, collective overthinking. They built prototypes, they simulated failures, and they came up with a solution, this contraption they nicknamed the mailbox.
And then they radioed the instructions up, and it saved their lives.
It did. The key takeaway for you listening is this. Your brain wants to be an Apollo 13 engineer. It wants a solvable puzzle with clear constraints.
The problem is when we give it an unsolvable one, a white bear problem.
Like, what do my coworkers really think of me? Or how can I change what I said 5 years ago? You apply Apollo 13 resources to that, and you get paralysis.
Right, which is perfectly illustrated by that old fable, the Centipede's Dilemma.
The story is, a centipede is walking along just fine, all 100 legs moving in perfect rhythm. A toad sees it and asks, how do you do that? How do you decide which leg moves when?
And the centipede stops to think about it.
It tries to consciously analyze its own movement. And in doing so, if the legs get tangled up, it trips and it can never walk properly again.
That is such a good metaphor for choking under pressure.
It's a real neurological thing. Automatic tasks like walking or having a normal conversation or even hitting a tennis ball, they live in your procedural memory. It's effortless.
Not overthinking it.
Forces it into your explicit memory, which is the clunky manual control part of your brain. Suddenly you're the centipede trying to manually coordinate 100 different things at once, and you just become awkward.
So we've got the evolutionary wiring, the DMN, the white bear trap. But let's go back to something you hinted at earlier, this idea of a chemical addiction. Why does it feel so compelling to keep worrying?
There's a powerful chemical loop. Worrying releases cortisol and adrenaline.
The stress hormones puts you on high alert.
And for a lot of people, that state of high alert, it actually feels safer than being calm.
That seems so backwards. Why would high alert feel safer?
It often comes down to early conditioning. If you grew up in a, let's say, chaotic or unpredictable environment, your brain learned a very simple but very destructive lesson.
Which is?
Calm equals danger. Because when you let your guard down, that's when the bad thing happened. But worry equals safety. If you were always on high alert, scanning for threats, at least you felt prepared.
So the brain actually mistakes the anxiety for preparedness. It thinks the worrying is what's keeping you safe.
Exactly. The worrying becomes a kind of magical ritual. If I worry enough about this flight, the plane won't crash. The high alert state is the familiar baseline, and genuine peace feels terrifyingly vulnerable.
Okay, so this is a tough situation. We're running ancient hardware, it's chemically hooked on high alert, and it fights back when we try to shut it off. We can't delete the software.
No, but we can update how we use it. We can negotiate.
So what are the practical strategies, the key hacks?
Okay, number one, and this is probably the most powerful, label the mechanism. The next time you're spinning out, stop saying, I am anxious.
Because that merges your identity with the feeling.
Right. Instead, Say out loud, if you have to, my default mode network is currently simulating disaster scenarios.
Ah, I see that. That creates distance. You're not the storm, you're just the person observing the storm.
And that detachment is everything. Okay, number 2, the write it down hack. The reason the brain loops is because it's afraid of forgetting important data.
So if you get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper,
You're signaling to your brain, it's been recorded, it's secure, you can stop reminding me now. It tells the monitor it can stand down.
it's not about solving it on the page, it's just about logging it.
It removes the urgency. Yeah. And the third hack comes right from our examples. Distinguish the puzzle. You have to pause and ask yourself, is this an Apollo 13 problem or a white bear problem?
Meaning, is this something I can actually solve with duct tape and cardboard right now? Or is it an unsolvable abstract thing?
And if it's a white bear problem, the most productive thing you can possibly do is stop trying. Stop the effort. Any more thought just feeds the machine.
So bringing us all together, we've got the smoke detector principle, the DMN, the white bear paradox. It seems the core lesson is understanding that your brain's intent is always survival, even if its methods are clumsy.
And if we build on that idea of worrying as a kind of magical ritual to control the uncontrollable, it opens up a pretty profound question for you to think about.
Okay.
What other habits you have, things that seem frustrating or counterproductive, are actually just your primitive brain's attempts to keep you safe?
And if you can recognize the protective intent behind the behavior, how does that change how you respond to it? You don't fight a guard dog, you redirect it.
You become mission control,
Ah,
calmly assessing the real problem instead of being the paralyzed centipede.
that's the goal. Apply that Apollo 13 versus white bear test to your next spiral. Label the mechanism. You might just get some sleep. We hope this deep dive into your own brilliant and paranoid operating system helps you navigate the noise.